Hello everyone. In today's video we will be looking at the condition lab within Combat Utility Belt. In particular, we are looking at how you can map conditions to cause them to have active effects in your game, such as rolling with advantage, granting advantage when other characters are attacking you, or other things such as granting resistances and much more. Let's go ahead and get started by showing off an example of this in work with the blinded status. When I add blinded status to my character will now roll with a disadvantage, and all creatures attacking my character will roll with advantage. Let's see how that functions. I should note, as I'm doing this, the modules I am using today are MIDI-qol, DAE, Dynamic Active Effects, the Combat Utility Belt, as well as I am also using the Furnace, and Token Magic I'm using primarily for a little bit of fun later, as well as FX Master is also used for a little bit of fun later as well to show it off. But let's make an attack roll with a Great Axe. So we see my player rolls 2, and we can see they roll with disadvantage, just to show that it's not just the status. So we can see it rolls normal when the status, rolled a crit. Rolls normal when the status is not on, but rolls with disadvantage when the status is on. And as part of the blinded status, anyone attacking a creature with blinded should gain advantage. Let's see if that functions as intended. There we see. Advantage attack coming in, and it hits. Okay, so we can see how it functions. Let's go ahead and take a look at our condition lab at how we set this up. Primarily today we will be using MIDI-qol flags to grant advantage, disadvantage, and so on. I'll be putting a link down in the description below onto where you can find all of those. Alright, we'll start off by going to our settings tab, going down to the condition lab. If you do not see the condition lab, it is because you have not enabled enhanced conditions. Okay, after you open up the condition lab, you should see a number of conditions available. Potentially you will have more than me if you have not disabled your default conditions. I have chosen only to have the D&D 5e conditions, as well as I have added in some personal ones as well, which I will talk about what my setup does. I have not changed all the conditions also. I've only changed some of them. So the first one, we are shut off, blinded. Looking at the effects, we have disadvantage on all attacks, override 1, grant advantage on all, add 1. Concentrating and charmed did not change because concentrating I am using the Combat Utility Belt concentrator feature. Deafened I did not change because perception checks only at disadvantage if they are hearing related. Exhaustion I have set to grant disadvantage on all ability checks and all skill checks. Here, Exhaustion 2 causes you to lose half of your movement speed. Now, the way I worked it out was I did multiply by half. However, the only problem I ran into was if you have an odd number for movement speed, you'll end up with a decimal. But since D&D 5e is really simple and you always round down, I think it's easy enough just to remove the decimal point. Disadvantage on all attacks, disadvantage on all ability saves. Oh, I skipped one. Exhaustion 4, HP max multiplied by half. Same problem, if you have an odd number, you will end up with a decimal point, but just delete the decimal point. Exhaustion 5, movement speed, all set to 0. Alright, Frightened, I did not make any changes. I felt as though it was a little bit too specific in the use case. There might be something you can do. If you find something, please let me know down in the comments below. Grappled, I set everything to 0 as far as the override. Very similar to what we did earlier on with our exhaustion. Incapacitated, the only thing I really changed was, again, setting everything to 0. Invisible, granting advantage on all of your attacks, and all attacks against you have disadvantage. Paralyzed, automatically fail saving throws for dexterity as well as strength, and attacks that are against you have advantage. I could not figure out how to have an instant critical within the system. There's potentially a solution, I'm not quite sure. Petrified is set to grant advantage on all attacks against the creature, as well as grant damage resistance to physical and magical damage. Poisoned makes all of your attacks go with disadvantage, and you have disadvantage on all ability and skill checks. Prone I did not change because prone is a little bit too conditional because it's only within 5 feet. Restrained, disadvantage on attacks, grant advantage on attacks, and set everything to 0 as far as movement speed. Stunned, automatically fail ability saves for dexterity and ability saves for strength, and grant advantage on attack. Unconscious I did not change. Before I go to the next setup for Rage, Bless, Shield of Faith, and Reckless Rage, let me go ahead and comment very quickly that was a lot to go through. I'll put all of this down in the description below to make it a little bit easier and so you don't have to slowly go through all of this. Okay, on to the next one. Hey, for Rage, I have it set up so that I add +2 to melee weapon attacks for the damage. I have damage resistance to piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning. For Bless, I've already talked about this in a previous video, but very simply, +1d4 to ability saves, +1d4 to all attacks. Shield of Faith is a little bit different. So before we talk about Shield of Faith, one thing I suggest doing is looking at the DAE, the drop-down menu, for ideas of what else you can add in. What I'll be adding in is I'll be adding in a macro for token magic to add in a custom effect. I want to add in the blue rays. So I can go here, active effects, we see the +2 to AC, and where it has here, I'm going to change this to blue rays. And what this will do is it will call upon the macro within token magic so that when this condition is applied to my character, when the status is applied, the token magic will take place as well as the +2. Let's see how that functions right now. Pretty cool. So we see the blue rays appear on top of my character instantly. So again, look at between both the macro folder within the compendium from Token Magic and DAE, the drop-down list, you can get an idea of all of the really cool token magic filters that can be applied very quickly. Okay, and as a final one, let's take a look at my Reckless Rage. Reckless Rage is going to grant advantage on all attacks against my character, as well as grant advantage from all attacks I make. And I've added in this just for fun. So, Condition Lab can also be used to execute macros. What I am executing here is a macro from FX Master, a weather macro. So, let's see how this functions when I activate Reckless Rage. If it functions correctly, we should see the weather will change instantly. And there we are. We see the rain begin to start, and then clouds will begin to roll in. So you can see how this can be used not only for FX Master, but to call on a number of different macros with a very quick click. And as a last thing that I'll be including today, in the description, I'll put a link down to a macro that allows you to change the condition or to apply the condition through the macro bar rather than having to right-click your character. So I can go through all of the conditions through this. Hey, I hope this has helped. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Hopefully I have my setup correct. If you notice any problems, though, please let me know before I start my game. Thanks, everyone.